Inside your body, a quiet battle is being fought every single day. You can't feel it, you can't see it. Yet, it influences how your cells use energy, how your blood sugar is regulated, and even how your body stores fat. On one side of this battle is insulin. On the other side are stress hormones, especially cortisol. Both of these systems are essential for survival. But when they fall out of balance, your metabolism begins to change in ways that can eventually lead to chronic disease. And one of the most powerful factors controlling this balance might be something many of us underestimate: sleep. To understand this hidden conflict, we first need to understand the role of insulin. Every time you eat, carbohydrates are broken down into glucose. This glucose enters your bloodstream, and your pancreas then releases insulin. Think of insulin as a biological key. It unlocks your cells, allowing glucose to enter where it can be used as fuel. Your muscle cells absorb glucose for energy. Your liver cells store any excess glucose as glycogen, and your fat cells store energy for later use. In a healthy system, insulin performs this task efficiently. Blood sugar rises a little after meals. Insulin helps move that glucose into the cells, and then blood sugar levels return to normal. But this entire system depends on something extremely important. Your cells must remain sensitive to insulin. Now, let's introduce another powerful hormone into this system: cortisol. Cortisol is a key part of your body's stress response. When your brain senses danger, whether it's real or perceived, it activates a chain reaction. Signals travel from the hypothalamus to the pituitary gland, and then to the adrenal glands, which release cortisol into your bloodstream. Cortisol prepares your body for survival. It mobilizes energy quickly by increasing blood sugar, ensuring your muscles and brain have immediate fuel during emergencies. In short bursts, cortisol is incredibly useful. But the problems begin when cortisol remains elevated for long periods. When cortisol levels stay high, your body enters a prolonged state of stress. The liver starts releasing more glucose into the bloodstream, even if you haven't eaten. This is the body's way of ensuring energy is always available during what it perceives as a constant danger. But now, insulin has to work much harder to manage all that extra glucose. And this is where the battle truly begins. Insulin is trying to lower blood sugar, while cortisol is pushing it higher. The two systems start pulling your metabolism in opposite directions. If this conflict happens only occasionally, your body can compensate. Insulin simply ramps up its activity, cells absorb more glucose, and balance returns. But if cortisol stays elevated day after day, the system begins to strain. Your cells start responding less efficiently to insulin's signals. To compensate, the pancreas releases even more insulin. Blood sugar becomes harder and harder to regulate, and slowly, the earliest stages of insulin resistance begin to appear. Researchers studying sleep deprivation see this pattern all the time. When sleep becomes restricted, cortisol levels that should be dropping at night remain elevated into the evening. This means your body spends more time in a state of stress metabolism. At the same time, sleep loss increases inflammation throughout your body. Inflammatory molecules actually interfere with insulin signaling inside your cells. So now you have a double whammy. Cortisol is raising your blood sugar, and inflammation is weakening your cell's ability to respond to insulin. Together, they create a perfect storm of metabolic instability. To understand how this works inside the cell, imagine insulin trying to deliver a message. Insulin binds to receptors on the cell surface, which activates a chain of signals inside the cell. These signals are what tell the cell to open up and let glucose in. But inflammatory molecules disrupt this signaling pathway. They get in the way of the proteins responsible for transmitting insulin's message. It's like the cell is no longer listening clearly. Insulin is knocking, but the door opens more slowly, or sometimes not at all. This is insulin resistance. Your body responds to this resistance by producing even more insulin. At first, this works. Your blood sugar remains relatively stable. But now, the insulin levels in your bloodstream are chronically elevated. This state is called hyperinsulinemia. And hyperinsulinemia brings its own set of problems. High insulin encourages fat storage and prevents fat from being burned efficiently. It can even alter hunger signals in your brain, creating a metabolic environment that favors weight gain. Now consider what happens when sleep deprivation continues long term. Cortisol remains elevated. Inflammation persists. Insulin resistance gets worse. The pancreas works harder and harder to produce enough insulin. Over time, this constant demand can strain the beta cells in your pancreas, the very cells that produce insulin. Eventually, insulin production may start to decline. And at that point, blood sugar levels begin to rise much more dramatically. This progression is one of the primary pathways toward type 2 diabetes. But the interaction between stress hormones and insulin extends beyond just blood sugar. It also influences your appetite and food preferences. Cortisol increases cravings for calorie-dense foods, particularly those rich in sugar and refined carbohydrates. These foods provide a rapid energy boost, which the body interprets as useful during stress. But these same foods also cause rapid spikes in blood sugar, which then requires even more insulin, intensifying the metabolic conflict between insulin and cortisol. Sleep deprivation makes this problem even worse. Research shows that when people sleep fewer than 6 hours a night, their levels of ghrelin, the hunger hormone, go up. Meanwhile, leptin, the hormone that signals fullness, goes down. This hormonal imbalance encourages overeating, particularly late at night. Combined with elevated cortisol, this pattern creates powerful metabolic pressure. More glucose enters the bloodstream, more insulin is required, and cells become increasingly resistant. Perhaps the most fascinating part of this hidden battle happens inside your brain. The brain is a glucose-guzzling organ. It relies heavily on stable metabolic regulation. When cortisol levels are chronically elevated, the brain's energy regulation changes. Certain regions become more sensitive to reward signals, which increases the desire for sugary foods. At the same time, sleep deprivation weakens activity in the prefrontal cortex, the region that helps regulate impulse control and decision-making. The result is a powerful behavioral shift. People become more likely to choose high-calorie foods, not because of a lack of discipline, but because their brain chemistry has literally changed. The conflict between cortisol and insulin is also deeply influenced by our circadian rhythms. Your body expects insulin sensitivity to follow a daily pattern. It's normally higher during daylight hours, when cells respond more efficiently. At night, insulin sensitivity naturally decreases. This is why eating large meals late at night can disrupt your metabolic balance. But when sleep schedules become irregular, your internal circadian signals get confused. Insulin sensitivity might decline at the wrong times. Cortisol might rise when it should be low. The body's metabolic systems lose their coordination, and the hidden battle between insulin and stress hormones intensifies. Scientists call this metabolic misalignment. The hormones are still working, but they're working at the wrong times. One of the most striking findings in sleep research is how quickly these changes can appear. Even a single night of restricted sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity. Multiple studies have shown that just 4 or 5 hours of sleep can impair your glucose metabolism the very next day. your body becomes temporarily insulin resistant. This shows just how sensitive our metabolic system is to sleep. But here's the encouraging news. The body has a remarkable ability to recover. When sleep duration improves, cortisol rhythms begin to normalize, inflammatory signals decline, and insulin sensitivity improves. The metabolic conflict between stress hormones and insulin starts to resolve. This demonstrates that sleep isn't just passive rest, it's an active metabolic repair process. During sleep, cortisol declines, growth hormone increases, tissue repair accelerates, inflammation decreases, and insulin sensitivity improves. In essence, sleep restores communication between your hormones. Without this nightly reset, the metabolic signals gradually drift out of alignment. Many researchers now believe that sleep might be one of the most powerful tools for maintaining metabolic health. Not because sleep directly burns calories, but because it keeps our hormonal systems synchronized. It ensures cortisol rises when needed and allows insulin to function efficiently. In other words, sleep helps maintain peace in the hidden hormonal battle inside your body. Modern life, however, makes this increasingly difficult. Artificial lighting, late-night screen time, stressful work schedules, though these things confuse our internal clocks, cortisol rhythms become irregular, sleep quality declines, and the metabolic conflict begins all over again. This raises a fascinating question. If sleep protects the delicate balance between stress hormones and insulin, could improving sleep be one of the most powerful ways to prevent metabolic disease? If this hidden hormonal battle truly starts with sleep disruption, how many metabolic disorders might actually begin with something as simple as a poor night of sleep? Thanks for watching. If you found this information helpful, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more insights into your health. We'll see you in the next one.